Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going back to my Great British Baking Show Love to Bake cookbook, and we are going to make a sticky chocolate and pear fudge cake. So this sounds really good. It looks really good, but I'm not going to show you the picture in case it turns out completely different. No, I try to be as honest as possible on these. But you always have this expectation if I show you the picture. Anyway, the first thing we have to do today is we have to make an apple puree. I forgot to mention, this is a vegan recipe, so if you need a vegan cake, this is it. So there are some fruits in here today, so starting with an apple. I've already got one eating apple, peeled, cored, sliced, and sitting in 2 teaspoons of water. I just have it simmering on low heat. I literally just turned it on. So I've got to cook it over low heat, gently simmering for 5 to 10 minutes until soft. So I'm just going to let that simmer for a little bit before we get going on the cake itself. Okay, I think my apples are done. They've been on there closer to 15 minutes. Okay, but they do look soft, or feel soft. I'm just going to put this in another bowl so that they can cool a little. It says to let them cool slightly. But what I am going to do is I want you to take one of these little hand mixers, okay? And you're going to blitz the apples, okay? Blitz them into a puree. So I'm going to do that real fast, and then we'll be ready to make the cake part. Okay, it's a little hard to get that little amount of apple into my little blender. Okay, there's my apple puree. So I am just going to set that aside for now. Okay, so we're ready to make the sponge. I'm going to use my new KitchenAid again today. Again, my bowl is probably too big. I probably need to get a smaller bowl because I just like using my commercial KitchenAid. Anyway, what I need to do is mix the flour, cocoa powder, and baking soda in a large bowl. So I have already got my flour and my cocoa powder sifted and combined because I was sifting both of them. I just went ahead and put them in. So I have 350 grams of plain flour and 90 grams of cocoa powder sifted in my bowl here. And I'm just going to add some 2 1/4 teaspoons of baking soda, bicarbonate of soda. I always think it's funny, the different names. Baking soda, bicarbonate of soda. I'm just going to whisk it up just so it's all mixed in there. Cocoa powder. Okay. And then I don't know why it puts the directions in this weird, but now it tells me to heat my oven up. Like that was going to take a long time. So we're going to 180 degrees Celsius, which is 355 today. 355 degrees Fahrenheit. So got that going. Whisk the sugar, olive oil, vanilla, almond milk, and vinegar in the stand mixer, fitted with my whisk. So I've already got my whisk on. My sugar today is 450 grams of light brown sugar that is soft. I also have 135 milliliters of light olive oil. I always find it funny that sugar is considered a liquid when you mix it. I'm sure there's some serious science behind it. I just don't know it. Then we have 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla paste. I've mentioned in some other videos that vanilla paste, I've used it before, is more challenging to find in the States than, I don't know, maybe I just didn't know where to look. I found it in like the cake decorating aisle, not necessarily like the baking aisle. Like if you go to a hobby store, you might find it in there if you're looking for it. I really like the smell I like how it has like the little beans from the vanilla. It's more, maybe I just use the cheap imitation stuff too much. But anyway, 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla paste, 570 milliliters of almond milk. That's a lot of almond milk to me, but so again, this recipe is vegan, so that's why we're using almond milk. That's why there's apples instead of eggs. Yeah, I guess that would make that dairy free then too. There's no actual milk. Don't quote me on that. All right, we've got the almond milk and vinegar, apple cider vinegar. So we've got 2¼ teaspoons of apple cider vinegar. So it's equal parts baking soda and vinegar. Am I going to get a volcano? No, I shouldn't. Not when I. I'm going to mix this on medium speed for 1 minute until combined. Okay, that looks good. It looks pretty combined. So now I'm going to stir in 2 tablespoons of my apple puree. I'm going to grab that. So just 2 tablespoons. I guess that's why we only needed just a little bit of it. Because I was like, this is just not very much apple. But it didn't give any grams. It's just 1 eating apple. So, all right, 2 tablespoons, right, of the apple puree. Which it looks like I maybe have 3 tablespoons-ish of apple puree. And whisk for another minute. Okay, it's been about a minute. Some of my apple pieces didn't get blitzed. So there's a couple apple chunks. I hope that doesn't affect it. Okay, add the flour mixture and whisk on low speed until combined and smooth. So I'm going to add my flour in here. Flour, cocoa powder, baking soda. So there's some bubbles forming because the vinegar and baking soda are starting to interact already. Whisk on low speed until combined and smooth. So I don't want to overmix this. So 1 minute or, just until combined. This is the part I can't quite get used to with my KitchenAid yet, and it's maybe because I'm doing smaller batches of things than I probably should in here. I probably need to get a bigger or a smaller bowl. Is the scraping down the side. I don't notice it so much when I do thicker doughs, but when I do the cakes and stuff, I do need to scrape a little bit. Okay, it says combined and smooth. The only like unsmooth parts I'm seeing in here really are the bubbles from the baking soda and vinegar. So I think we're good. All right, so there is my batter. Looks really good. Now today we are using 2 20-centimeter cake pans or sandwich tins. I think it's a curious label, sandwich tins. 8-inch cake pans. It says oiled and then base lined with baking paper. So I've got 2 of those ready to go. I do think it's funny when they say different verbiage in this book. The editor maybe should have synchronized everything, because sometimes it's oiled and base paper and sometimes it's greased. And I think it's all the same thing as long as you I don't know, line it. Anyway, so I've got to put half, I'm going to half fill both of them with the mixture. So basically I got to try to visibly divide this into 4 in my head. And while you're like, why in the world is she only half filling these at this moment? Because we are putting pears in here. So I have got 3, I want to make sure I got the name right, 3 ripe but firm pears, such as Cormus, Williams, or Conference, peeled, cored, and sliced. Now, Williams pears are apparently another name for Bartlett pears, and that is the most common in my grocery store, or that's what I usually buy. So I'm just going to use those. So I'm just going to, just says basically arrange the pear slices on top. So I'm going to try to arrange them pretty, but we'll see how far that goes. I've already screwed it up, so Now I don't know about you, but I really like the taste of pears. Oh, the circle thing that I was going to try to do is not going to work. But it's one of those fruits where if you don't like eat it at the right time, it's terrible. Whoop. And they're also really slippery. I like buy them, and then there's like that window, and you're like, oh, I missed the window. Now they're terrible. You can't eat them like as soon as you get them from the store, and whatever. I really like the taste of pears, but I just don't buy them very frequently because of that reason. It's like an avocado, you know. You buy the avocado, and then I don't know, you wait a couple days for it to get ripe, and then by the time it's ripe, you missed it. You missed it. You missed your window. So if someone has any advice on how to like make sure you get a good pear or an avocado, I'm willing to hear it because I like both of them, but I don't eat them very often. All right, it's set to use 3. I still have it, like at least a half of one, maybe closer to a whole one left. I still have my suspicion that our pears and other fruits are larger than they might be over on your side of the pond if you're over in Great Britain. So I'm just going to do it that because I don't want to overload it and get it really super thick and heavy. Pour the remaining of the mixture over the pears to cover. Okay, that's easy enough. Now, I'll be honest with you, when I did that, I was more worried about covering the pears than actually looking if they're even, but they look okay. So I'm gonna hope that they're evenly distributed. Okay, so now we're ready to bake these for 35 to 40 minutes. They're kind of wobbly. Like, look at them. It's a lot of liquid in there. 35 to 40 minutes until risen and firm to the touch. So firm to the touch. And I'm going to leave them in the tins to cool completely. Okay, so 35 to 40 minutes. Okay, it's been 42 minutes, and I think they're done now. Okay. There we go. Okay, I think the little pear kind of got, where the fruit are, gave it kind of a couple little lumpy shapes, but that's okay. Now I do need to let these cool in their tins completely before I do anything with them. So I'm going to put them on the rack. I'm going to give them just a second. I'm going to put them on my rack back there so that they cool faster. But it's going to take a while for them to cool like that. When I checked them at like 35 minutes, they were still very soft. Like when I touched it, it was like wobbly. So I waited till it was firm to the touch. I didn't poke them because it didn't say to do that. And I'm sure the pear and everything is just going to leave a lot of stuff on the stick anyway. So I didn't use that method. We'll just see. It smells very fudgy and very chocolatey in my house right now. So that's not a bad thing. It smells really good. So I'm excited to get this cake wrapped up as soon as these cool completely. All right, so these sponges from my cake are cool, so I'm going to go ahead and start making the ganache. So I have some water boiling, simmering here, and I have 150 grams of dark chocolate. Now, if you want to make sure that this cake is vegan, you need to make sure it's vegan chocolate. So dark chocolate, I'm going to set it on there to double boil or to melt my chocolate. And then I'm also going to add 75 milliliters of almond milk to make my ganache. I'm just double checking that. Yep, melt the chocolate and the almond milk in a heat-proof bowl. Okay, so I'm just going to let that heat up and melt until it's smooth and shiny, and then I'm going to remove it from the heat. All right, that definitely looks smooth and shiny to me. So that is ready, and it just says to remove from heat. So once it's all done. So I'm going to just set this over here to the side while I get to work on the vanilla frosting that's going to go in the cake as well. Okay, I'm ready to make the vanilla frosting that's going to go in between my layers on my cake. So I have, let's see, 125 grams of icing sugar already in my mixing bowl ready to go. I'm going to add vegan spread, which is just like a vegan butter. 75 grams of that. And then I'm also going to add 1 teaspoon of that vanilla paste again. Okay, and then it says 1 tablespoon of almond milk optional. So it doesn't say to put it in right away. Add a little almond milk to loosen. So I'm just going to start with this and then see if I need that almond milk to loosen it up. But so I'm going to mix this on medium speed for 2 to 3 minutes until light and creamy. So I did not add the almond milk, and it looks really good. I was thinking about it because I was watching it, and it looked pretty stiff. But then I just let it keep beating, and it turned out fine. I mean, you could still say it's a little stiff, but it's going in between the layers, so I kind of want it to hold its shape better. So I'm going to leave this as is, okay, because I said so. We are ready to construct our cake now. So again, sticky chocolate and pear fudge cake. When I was looking at these after they cooled, this one kind of sunk in. I'm not really sure why. It could just be that there was too much fruit in that section. I don't know. So I'm trying to decide whether I want that one to be the top or the bottom. Probably the top, just because. Anyway, we're going to get these flipped out. Okay. And again, I never know whether you should flip them or not. I think I'm going to leave them this time because it's really sticky. It's like a brownie consistency. It's pretty heavy. Definitely has some brownie smells in the kitchen, which is nice. I like brownies. Okay, so I've got one turned out. I'm going to pipe the frosting, so the vanilla frosting, I just went ahead and put it in a bag. And now I'm just going to put it on top. So I'm going to try to be neat with it. That's why I put it in a bag. I could have spread it out with the knife, but I'm not always so even like that. Joke's on me, I need a palette knife anyways, because there's never enough frosting in these recipes. Or at least for what I want to do. So I'm going to spread this out a little bit. It's pretty good looking. Now, I just need to put the other cake, the second sponge. Okay. Hopefully this one comes out a little smoother. All right. There we go. Oops. Well, that one came out good. I'm glad I had that lined up well because that just flopped right down. They're dense. They're not light and airy cakes, which I didn't really think they would be. Like I said, brownie. Think brownie. And then I just need to top with the ganache. Pour over the ganache and make lines back and forth with the dessert spoon to make it look pretty, I guess. So. Okay. The dessert spoon lines kind of made it look a little bit more fancy. I don't know. It does say to decorate with flowers, leaves, pistachios, and berries. I don't have those. But I'm going to decorate it with something. But I'll meet you on the tasting end. All right, everybody. We are ready to taste our sticky chocolate and pear fudge cake. So I've already kind of cut a piece. So the cool thing is you can kind of see the pear in there, which I think is neat. Full disclosure, I've already tasted this. I made it for my daughter's names day celebration. So I've already tasted it. But second piece, whatever. Anyway, I did notice that the sponge itself is not super flavorful. If you don't get a pear in the cake, it doesn't really have much of a flavor, which is kind of weird. I wish we would have been able to like put the pear in the sponge like more incorporated. But anyway, if you get a bite with the icing, like I'm going to get now, that's where it's really good. I love that icing layer. I kind of wish there was more of it. Um, but that's good. The ganache, I'm not super fan of. I don't know if it's the percentage of the dark chocolate that I used. I'm just not really a huge fan of dark chocolate, so that's probably just my fault. But it tastes good with the cake. Like if you get a chunk of it with everything, then it's good. Just by itself, it was kind of meh. But yeah, as a whole, it's a good cake. It's just one of those things where if I would have made an American version of this cake, it would have been just heavy and I don't know, just kind of bogs you down. For whatever reason, these bakes never taste that like crazy, like, I don't know, just doesn't make you feel bloated at the end like American food does. But anyway, that is the latest bake in my baking challenge of baking through the Love to Bake cookbook from the Great British Baking Show. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up and then go subscribe. Make sure that you get to see the next video that I'm going to put out and go take a look at some of the other ones. I'm cruising right along through here. So anyway, I will see you next bake.